people outside of the city, but I think there's equally qualified people inside the city that would, in my opinion, you take care of home.
You're not even talking about someone has to live in the city. They could be moving to the city as a condition of doing this.
Sure, and that's even easier.
They limited city manager to someone who already lives.
Sure. Because somebody moves in to take a job,
they're going to know.
That does not really make him as committed to someone that already lives here. I mean, in reality, it will not. He's come in, or she, and they're doing a job. They may be here 4 years. They may be 10 years.
Council, who's elected, they go into UDF and Ray's drive-through and go up to Classic Pizza, and they're talking to all these people. You know, they know the community. Not saying that on lunch break, a city manager who lived outside couldn't do that, and they do that, but living inside the city, you get to know it a lot more than you would. And it's just my opinion.
Did Mr. Pierce live here?
I don't know. That was just one myself.
That was before your time.
Both these options have valid aspects to them. The thing right now is we really can't make up our minds right now until we get a legal ruling on it.
We're debating,
Yeah. And when we get more information, then we can beat it to death.
You good, Mr. Roll? Okay. No, you're not good.
One thing I will note is I have asked the city manager and the staff on several occasions to consider being a part of this process, particularly as we move into these topics that affect them directly. And as we can see, we haven't had any yet. So,
how directive can we be?
I don't think this commission has the authority to direct anyone.
That's why I'm asking.
So, nor do I. So, but I strongly suggested that, looking ahead, because the next couple articles, city manager, administrative departments, personnel, all deal with the aspects that impact directly the city staff and the city managers. So that I just wanted you to know the offer had been made to them to, come and be a part of this process.
Maybe it's time to let him know that that's the area we're in, and that might be more.
I already said that, yes.
Okay. Never mind.
Can I just say one more quick thing on this? What if we just took out the, unless otherwise temporarily, why don't we just take out the temporarily and then just say unless otherwise authorized by council, and it gives the option to the council to decide what they want. If they want a city manager that does or does not, is required to live in the city, and that way it wipes it out and can go either way.
When you take it out, you can do it either way.
I think that part's in, and I don't want to speak above you, but I think that part is in there because it says, but shall become a resident within 6 months.
Right.
So it's saying the city manager has to become a resident, and then if we take out the temporarily.
I think what
he's
saying it have to be a temporary thing, it could be a permanent.
Speak to council.
Okay.
To decide what type of city manager they want.
Because now council's determining how long temporary is.
Yes.
Exactly.
Otherwise, then all they have to do is determine yay or nay. You live here, you don't live here.
And I think that's a good idea as long as the language itself is still valid from a legal perspective. That is, if you're not on the side of agreeing, that someone should live, then you might not want that. But that's a middle ground for sure.
So are we going to now wait for the...
I think that you guys should get more information before you finalize a recommendation on this. I think we're speculating at this point and kind of going in circles, and it might just be better to gather the information and come back to this and reattack it then.
Is this a good place to adjourn, or I want to go too much farther beyond this, or?
Well, I'm really hoping that we get through a few more sections at a time. So, I mean,
yeah.
Well, and the fact that we are meeting weekly, which is much more frequently than a lot of boards and commissions, and hopefully we'll get through this at some point. So.
Let's keep going. We'll just come back to 6-1 when we have more.
And particularly if maybe you don't have to spend as much time discussing each individual section, but if at least we could identify pieces of information that you think would be helpful in formulating your thoughts around those areas, so that I could start doing the legwork to get that information back to you, so that you can make some final decisions on some of these sections.
And on the last topic of the city manager residency requirement, I would empower each one of the members of this committee to go out and chat it up with your fellow neighbors and things that, Lord, if you use social media, Godspeed you. But, just chat up with your local neighbors while you're out for coffee, kind of get a feel of, what they're thinking, kind of get a neutral party view. This is something, like I said earlier, it's been tackled widely throughout the state. So even if somebody lives in another city far, far away. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you for that. All right. If we have nothing else for now, let's move on to 6-2 then. Powers and duties.
Nothing.
Okay.
No.
Mr. Shaw.
Thank you. After I got home from work today, I did see an email in my email inbox at 4:20 p.m. of some research on the city manager residency requirements. 8 pages worth, quite a bit there. I still have not had a chance to go through it all. On top of that, the email is marked as attorney-client privilege. I would like to caution this board to make sure that this document, unfortunately, is a privileged document to this commission and cannot be released, nor its contents to the public. Now, this board and commission does have the availability to vote to make it public and to release that document to general public for research or input. But I wanted to caution everybody on that. I have not reached out to our city attorney to, get any reason why he placed the attorney-client privilege on there and kind of prevented that from that happening. But I would like to go ahead, because I haven't had time to thoroughly review 8 pages, is to go ahead and possibly push this off to the next discussion or the next meeting. That way we can just roll on to the next topic.
Okay.
Thank you.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Shaw, what is the guidance that says we have the right to release this to public when the attorneys told us not to?
It was actually a verbal opinion given by Alan Schaefer, and I believe it was backed up by David Montgomery at 2 city council meetings regarding some information that was given in the back room to city council members, that the city council at that time had the availability to make that document public as the attorney, because we are the client, and those powers would come down to this commission as well.
Maybe it's not all-encompassing. Maybe it was specific to that instance. I would caution us never to do that without knowing
Sure.
what specific authority we have.
And that's why I would suggest that we wait to even discuss this until we get further clarification on discussing anything that's in that 8-page opinion and discussing that topic here tonight.
If what he says stands, then since this is broadcasted live, we wouldn't be able to discuss it.
That's what he's saying.
But I mean, we wouldn't ever be able to discuss it.
That's correct.
That's inconvenient.
Wait a minute, I guess it begs the question of what we would need to discuss, since we asked him for a legal interpretation and he gave it.
I would like to have some documentation from Alan that, that because he put confidential attorney-client privilege on there, that this is something that we can discuss at this meeting, open, private, public in a session, as prior times with city council events, that these items have come down, we don't discuss those.
Okay. Is that something we can just email him? Or?
Yes, I unfortunately, like I said, since I got home, I traveled 75 from Miamisburg. I didn't have a whole lot of time to get that email. Either Bonnie or myself, or even Nancy can send that email out. Yeah.
Okay. So then all that has to be put on hold then until we hear back.
Right.
So.
Well, this isn't, well, wait a minute. This one, oh no, this is, wait a minute. This is section,
6.01.
601.
okay, this is past what we're submitting. Okay, yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
this
well
fine.
past that, yeah.
Okay.
So we'll just pick up then, we just left off, well, we made it all the way through section 6 like last week, minus 6.1. So we'll just start right into section 7. Okay. All right, so picking up from last week.
Picking up from last week, looks like you guys were busy last week in your discussions. When I came back, I had all kinds of notes, and I guess where we would probably logically start would be back to the issue of 601, which is the remaining section in Article 6 dealing with the city manager. That's the only one that hasn't been finalized as to, whether action is going to be taken on that. There was a lot of back and forth in terms of the citations and information that you were seeking in terms of clarification on what's permitted in terms of residency. Mr. Schaefer had provided the Charter Review Commission last Wednesday with a rather extensively detailed memorandum about residency and citing some of the case law and issues around that. So I guess it would be up to the commission to decide how you want to proceed with that information in terms of its relevance to Section 601.
Mrs. Birch?
Based on the interpretation by our attorney, I would recommend that we strike the last sentence of 6.01.
The state case law, I believe from the email that he sent, says that we cannot enforce that, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
That was the bottom line after 8 pages.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that now. Yeah. Okay. Mr. Truman?
Yes, I just had a comment. Looking over, and I did read his opinion on that. But according to the Cincinnati memo, which was put out by their solicitor office as well, which was their law department, it talks about, for the Cincinnati memo, this memo was written in consultation with the solicitor's office to clarify the residency requirements imposed on senior officers of the city of Cincinnati pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, Section 733.68. And it goes on to talk about how it requires officers of municipalities to be electors of the municipality. This was done in 2014. So I think what we have is, it could be, the way I'm reading it, this was done by the Cincinnati lawyers. Our lawyer had another opinion. There could be a conflict of opinions as well.
Mr. Schaefer did indicate to me that he had actually called the solicitor down in Cincinnati and had a conversation and said, how do you accomplish this in light of the case law and the decisions that have been made in the courts on this issue? And the bottom line response from them was, well, no one's sued us yet or challenged us on it. So
right.
It hasn't been upheld in litigation. So it stands as no one's challenged it yet, but that's the exception rather than the rule in terms of what most communities throughout the state have done in response to the case law that's been decided on this issue.
Right, and that's kind of where I would say that I would, just from the points I made before about wanting our city manager to be an elector of our city, I would say that keeping this in the charter wouldn't hurt.
But if it's not enforceable.
But taking it out, it could be enforceable if council would enforce it.
According to Ohio Revised Code.
No, according to the Cincinnati memo.
Yeah, but the Cincinnati memo isn't the
the
bottom line. The bottom line was.
But actually, according to the Ohio Revised Code, yes, because in 733.68,